All right, in this sequence hello, I was getting ahead of myself there. Excuse me. Hi, welcome to Answering the Inner Call, boo. This is Malika, your host and auditory guide through the practice and exploration of reclaiming and standing in our power, our authentic power, using it in the terminology that Gary Zukav uses in Seed of Your Soul, that we are, as descendants of a higher power. I call that power God. You may not even believe in that power. That's okay. I'm not here to convince you of anything. Just, giving food for thought and exploration. But in the context of what I believe in a higher power, if I am a child of God and God is a powerful being, then that means that I am also a descendant and have the aptitude and potentiality of my Creator as being a powerful being. And power here is power with, not power over, in the way that we normally see it in the world. In this exploration, I want to talk about pimps and hoes. What does that have to do with power? So I recognize in myself, if you've listened or haven't listened to the other episodes about power in this series, I'll just succinctly say that working with this life coach, healer, intuitive that I was working with, she told me that part of my work was not giving my power away. This was over 10 years ago, y'all. And I didn't quite understand what she meant by that. And that's what the other episodes about power are exploring. This episode is exploring how I gave power away and how others give power away in a different way. And that is, drum roll please, recently had this insight, not recognizing and or valuing our gifts. So what does that have to do with pimps and hoes? Well, one could say, even though the pimp tears down the hoe in most circumstances, we're talking about, and now I have not lived this lifestyle, so I cannot say firsthand. Probably in another lifetime I have, but not this lifetime. So I want to be explicit in saying that a lot of this is speculatory, but is speculation of this lifestyle. But we can see this in so many other forms and fashions as well. So in this scenario and painting this picture, the hoe has the goods, because the hoe has the goods, meaning that she or he, and I don't mean hoe in derogatory, but the popular urban vernacular pimps hoes. She or he has the goods, meaning that she or he has something of value that people will exchange for tender, meaning money. They have a skill, a talent, something that is seen as valuable that people will pay for. Okay? Now, the pimp, on the other hand, recognizes this value and profits off this value while demeaning the value of the hoe. And usually it's physically abuse or verbal abuse or some kind of intimidation and or abuse that reduces the confidence and or on some level, perhaps the hoe maybe doesn't even recognize their value, but the pimp damn sure isn't helping them see their value, because the pimp wants them reliant on them and the pimp by inserting the pimp's value. So you need somebody to protect you from these streets. You're nothing without me. Like all these different things, right? So the pimp is pumping up this grandiosity version of itself to try to inflate its value while diminishing, reducing, exploiting the value that they must see in their hoe, or else they wouldn't have them as their hoe to make money for both of them. Right? So it's an interesting, what the Course would call a special love, special hate relationship. The hate is, the hate of the dependence on this other person for your welfare. The love, of course, boosting them up and all these other things, right? Because you also need them on some level. And so when when the hoe is in this situation where they don't recognize, and this doesn't just have to be based on the pimp, they may have already been demoralized and or whatever, where they don't recognize their innate value and gifts. And I'm not even just talking about sexually. I'm just saying in general, they may not recognize their gifts and abilities, which then makes it easy to be exploited. So that is a way that we give our power away. When we don't recognize our brilliance, when we don't recognize our talents, when we don't recognize all that we have to offer and contribute, then it makes it easy for someone to come in that does recognize that value, that does recognize what you have to offer and that it can be profitable, that allows them to insert themselves in your profitability and supply chain, creating a false sense of importance and dependence in order to then benefit off of you. Now, how does this play out to our power and gifts? If you know your value, if you know you have gifts and abilities, and it's so easy though to still be manipulated or people having an agenda, but if you recognize what you have as valuable, it's harder to do that. So another case study is coming to mind. Tina Turner and Ike Turner. Rest in peace, Tina Turner. She made her physical transition earlier this year. That dynamic is really like a pimp hoe dynamic. She was just dancing and doing on stage and making money versus, like in a hotel room or something. But that whole dynamic, if you understand or are familiar with their relationship, is like a pimp hoe dynamic. He created, first of all, like an emotional bond, right? Where he was the one, when she met him, he was a big deal in St. Louis. And a lot of people wanted to sing with him. And so he already had a level of fame and power locally. And so basically, that's one dynamic where she saw in him, right? He has this fame, he has this power, and an opportunity for her to realize her dreams as a singer. But on the flip side, and there's manipulation and all these other things around that, right? Where he saw her gifts and abilities and then, wanted to have power over her, changing her name, marrying her, trying to control her through various means, including not paying her. So that's a form of abuse, right? Where he's benefiting off of her gifts, abilities and talents, and then she's not profiting off of them to that same degree. So that's financial abuse. And yet he's exploiting her gifts. And it wasn't until, and there's a whole other like emotional component, right? Where it's like, don't leave me, like I call it emotional blackmail, and sharing, trauma bonding over past experiences. And you're going to be like the other people if you leave me, and look at all that I've done for you. I've made you, like all those different things, which really try to strip a person's power, talents, abilities, and yet recognizing them enough to want to exploit them, recognizing them enough to want to stand near them in proximity to be able to reap the benefits of those talents while not acknowledging those talents. And so I saw in myself really a fear and or a blind eye in some ways to the gifts and abilities that I have. And I would say that was the same with a lot of other people who have been exploited, whether it's in the music industry and or otherwise. And when we start acknowledging our gifts, that is a form of our God-given gifts. That is a form of acknowledging our power, because that energy coming through us in whatever ways to contribute and to be of value to other people, which usually it usually also deals with some type of monetary exchange. So those are all deeply interconnected. And so I'm going to stop here or wrap it up by just saying and encouraging you who's listening right now to start making a list. If this speaks to you, if you maybe don't even know that you have gifts and abilities, or that you're not fully embracing all that you have to offer, maybe just start making a list of things that you enjoy doing and that you get feedback on that people seem to enjoy about you. Maybe you ask some friends or, coworkers what they appreciate about you, what they think your gifts are, and begin to get more comfortable in the discomfort of owning them and appreciating them for yourself. Because how can we create and generate more money, if that's your aim, or at least not even more money, but just, a viable, sustainable lifestyle, if we're not in full recognition and embrace of what our gifts are and that they're worthy and valuable enough to make room for us and to be compensated for us to take care of ourselves financially, to have room and board and travel and all these other things. But first, we have to recognize the value first. And then put ourselves out there and share our value and share our gifts in order to then receive the bounty and blessings from them. So I'm on my way with this. It's a process and a work in progress, but I hope that sharing this kind of ideological or theoretical approach right now sparks something in your mind, or an opportunity that you can be a bit more comfortable and at ease with the brilliance, the beauty, and the light that you are. Marianne Williamson's quote comes to mind: "It is not our light, but it is not our darkness, but our light that most threatens us." Who am I to be? I'm paraphrasing here. Glamorous, loving, brilliant, and who are you not to be? So I'll leave you with that right now. Much love, many blessings. Keep shining. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. If there are some gifts that have come to mind that you are ready to embrace and recognize in yourself and your brilliance, share them. Sometimes we can be uncomfortable standing in that, right? But share them in the comments. Share, I enjoyed your podcast, and the gifts that I have are this, that, and the other. Let's do it. So I'll put out one of my gifts as I'm giving you that charge. My name is Malika, and one of my gifts is communication and speaking and sharing ideas and thoughts in ways that can land with other people and that makes sense. So that's one of them. Another one that's coming to mind to share that I've been uncomfortable owning is my singing voice. I had stage fright and I could not be with this before 2020, before COVID and the lockdown, but I have started to embrace and own that my voice is one that people enjoy listening to, and that when I start to sing, people listen. I went to a karaoke party on last Saturday and noticed that when I started to sing my songs that people were engaged. And so I am going to lean in, as I'm encouraging you to do, and just acknowledge that. And I feel some tightness in my belly around it as I'm speaking it right now. But it is true. It is true. People stopped talking and listened. And I've received that feedback before. So that's one of the ones that I'm going to embrace and own right here, right now. Thank you for that nudge from you, dear listener, to hold me to the same loving standard and invitation that I hold and invite you to. Okay, that is all for now. Much love, many blessings. Mwah! Peace.